Levitators, spoon benders, water diviners, beware. James Randi, psychic investigator, is among you.
I'm not here to demean anybody. I'm not here to put anybody down, so to speak. I'm here to investigate. I can anticipate from my past experience, 35 years of it in this business, that it will probably be essentially the same story that it's been every place else in the world. People who innocently deceive themselves, and that small residual of people who go out of their way to actually defraud the rest of their fellow citizens.
Now, you've got $10,000 and there are two Australian businessmen who've each got $10,000. That's $30,000 for anyone who can successfully demonstrate the paranormal.
That's right.
How confident are you of keeping your money?
Well, let me see now. I'll show you the check. I've carried this check around now. This one has only been carried since June 25th, 1980. I have to renew it every now and then. I don't know about your banks, but every 6 months a check like this goes dead. You see, it's no longer valid. For 15 years, this is the 15th year, I've carried a check around like this in this tired little old wallet. That check for $10,000, I've never had to give up 5 cents of it so far. That doesn't mean that I won't. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing. I can lose $10,000, but I would gladly surrender that $10,000 if I were given evidence of one paranormal ability of any kind, because it would open my universe much larger than it is. It's a wonderful universe I live in. I enjoy life from day to day. I have my ups and downs like everyone else, but I think it is a wonderful world that we live in. I don't need miracles of a semi-religious nature, as they put it, in order to make my world any better. But to be offered something like that, to know that a person could float in the air, could find concealed water underground, could bend a spoon by merely thinking about it, that would make my universe 100 times bigger than it is, and all the more marvelous. It would be worth $10,000.
In the arid inland of Australia, water is priceless because it doesn't rain very often. So farmers must pump it from underground. But first they have to find it. And throughout Australia, many farmers sink their bores on the advice of men who claim a paranormal or supernatural power, the ability to detect or divine the presence of unseen water underground. The belief is widespread and it's been entrenched for hundreds of years. James Randi is here to test it, and he's frankly skeptical.
And I am told from my correspondence here and from other people who have been here that this seems to be a very popular delusion, the idea that people can douse with a fork stick or bent coat hangers or whatever, that they can actually find water. Well, if they can, all well and good. Again, my concern is not how they do it, but if they do it.
Maybe it's mental, maybe it's a psychic power that's tied up with the brain itself.
Do you feel any different after you've been divining?
No, not really.
Can you do it any time of the day or night?
Any time of the day or night, any place.
Now, Max, you say that you can divine not only water, but you can divine from aerial photographs and you can divine gold and other metals.
That's right, yes.
Could you divine a piece of brass that I've buried along this fence here somewhere?
I reckon I can, yeah.
Let's give it a try.
All right.
That shows you the direction, does it?
Well, it does at times, yeah. But I'm just going to be careful that, because of this.
Right. Now, when they cross, what does that mean?
Well, when they cross, I should be directly over the top of the gold. Well, either there or partway between my body and it.
You're saying it's somewhere down here?
Just there. Yeah.
Sure enough, there it is.
Right.
How did you do that?
I didn't do it. The rod's done it.
A bit like Uri Geller. I watched him on television and I believed him. He was bending spoons and doing things by paranormal powers, just by his mind. And I looked at it and it looked absolutely logical. But we found out later that it was not true at all. He was just a magician and they were all being bent by hand.
I'd like to introduce you to the greenkeeper. Now, he knows exactly where the pipes are underneath the ground here. Would you like to show us where you think they are?
Now, the part of the pipe goes down this way.
Mm.
And there's a junction there which sends the pipe back up along the fence, up this way.
And the pipe goes this way then?
Yeah, straight along there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's right. Can you make a living out of water divining?
Well, I nearly reared my family on it.
You really did?
Yeah, at Gosford.
We've seen people following water pipes, the greenkeeper saying, yes, they're the water pipes, that's exactly where they are. We saw a man find a little brass knob in a place where he didn't know where it had been planted. I mean, are you surprised by that?
Well, no, because not one of those is a scientific test, unfortunately, because we can't obviously dig up the golf links to find out if the pipe is there, and we can't find out if no one saw where the particular piece of brass was hidden.
Are you psychic?
I believe so, Paul.
How do you know that?
Well, certain experiences we've had over a lifetime that have just been more than coincidence, and it makes you realise that you have a power or have something that is different to other people.
If these guys can do the scientific test, well, I'm very happy to pay the money out.
Are you prepared to take on Dick Smith's $30,000 competition?
Indeed. I'm really interested in $30,000.
I think it's easy as getting in and out of bed.
It'll be the easiest day's divining I've ever had if the money comes forward.
I believe all of these people are genuinely there, various rods and that are moving, but whether there's water there or a pipe there, I don't know. I'd like to try and prove it one way or the other.
The cream of Australia's diviners gather in Sydney to take up the $30,000 challenge of the sceptical trio: Dick Smith, Philip Adams and James Randi.
The idea is it's really very hard to keep it perfectly level, and relaxing your hand the slightest bit, it'll come up or it'll go down, one or the other, and you can't see any apparent movement of the hand. It's actually a tense system which is out of balance, and it's very hard to keep it in balance. This thing, I think there's something to it. There must be some. Oh, heavens, we've broken the only prop. Oh, well.
Do you think if you see James Randi bending a spoon in the same way that little Ori does, that you'll think maybe Ori was just a magician?
I will if I can see him do that genuinely, but...
Right. Tell me, when Ori did it, what did he just do it in front of you, or what?
Yeah, he took the spoon and he just rubbed it and gradually it bent, just like that.
Right. And you can't
That was
bend
pretty
it.
convincing.
It's almost...
I haven't tried to bend it. I wanted to preserve it as it was.
Yeah.
Those claiming paranormal powers have enjoyed good and largely uncritical publicity from the Australian media. But now it's the turn of the sceptics.
Well, it bent in front of my eyes and the film crew's
But why
eyes.
wouldn't little Ori be sort of used by BHP and all these companies for bending metals and everything? Because, I mean, I really mean that. It just seems incredible.
Well, I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? But look, I saw that bend. Now, you can say it didn't bend, that it was trickery or whatever.
Right.
But until you can prove it scientifically, I know what I saw.
Tricks don't look like trickery if they're well done. When a man makes a lady float in the air, if it looked like a trick, people say it looks like a trick. But it doesn't look like a trick. It looks perfectly logical. It looks, if it is not logical, perhaps, but it looks perfectly real because the man is giving the illusion of doing that.
Randy, what don't you believe in?
I don't believe that 2 + 2 = 5. I don't believe in Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and the Easter Bunny. The first I don't believe simply because, by definition, 2 + 2 = 4, and always will, one hopes. I don't believe in Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or the Easter Bunny because there's not sufficient evidence for them. The same breath, I don't believe in ESP, precognition, water divining, spoon benders and whatnot, because there's not sufficient evidence for them either. What evidence there is very sketchy. It's obtained under abominable conditions, and no scientific tests have been done, in spite of claims to the contrary. No scientific tests have been done.
Well, here's the spoon anyway that was bent by Ori, the Melbourne boy, several years ago. Can you tell me that that was trickery, even though I filmed it?
No, I can't, because I wasn't there. All I can say is it's more probable that it is trickery than that it is a supernatural occurrence, because you admit that the conditions were not scientific and they were not complete whatsoever.
No, the conditions weren't scientific, but it appeared as though he bent the spoon.
It appeared as if he did, yes.
All right, well, how would that be done? How would that sort of trickery or sleight of hand be done?
Would you take this spoon and hold it between your fingers like this in front of me, like that? Mm-hmm. Put your elbows on the table.
Yeah.
So let's present it so that it is thoroughly visible. Now, you're holding it firmly. Pinch it like that so that you have good control over it. Yes. Fine. Turn it just a little bit sideways, a little bit like that. That's fine. Now, I'm really going to stroke it with my index finger. I'm not putting undue pressure on it. If I put pressure on it like that, I would move your arms, right?
Right.
I'm not putting undue pressure on. You're going to get a remarkable illusion taking place here. You will think, if you aren't very careful, you will begin to think that it looks rubbery. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, I'm putting very little, hold it very, very lightly. Very, very, so you're barely holding it. Look at this. It appears as if it's getting rubbery. Let go of it for a second, if you will. Now, I'm just going to hold it like this, and I'm just going to... Heavens to gimbals, is there no end to the man's covered? I did it rather well, I think.
No, I think you did it very well, but how did you do it?
If I were to tell you that, you'd be as smart as I am. And I don't want you to be quite as smart as I am, because then you wouldn't sleep well at night.
Come on.
Now, this is, you say this is the one that Ori bent.
Yeah.
Look, just by stroking it gently at that, it bends. Isn't that fantastic?
That's amazing.
Now, if I put it beside this one, there's a very evident difference on that trade.
Yes.
Take this between your hands and see if you can bend it. Go ahead. And it's done. Watch. You see, it was done while you're looking away. That's a different contour altogether. I simply took it as I called your attention to this, dropped it below the table, gave it a bend against my leg.
With the other one?
Indeed it is. And if you watch the film carefully, you'll see that that's exactly what happened.
But can you say that because that was an illusion, that the people who purport to bend spoons are illusionists?
No, but I can say there are two explanations. Either that they have supernatural powers, which means that all of science for the last many, many centuries, thousands of years, is down the drain. Law of inverse squares, conservation of energy, then the laws of thermodynamics are absolutely down the drain. We have to rewrite all of that. That's one explanation. The second is that it's a simple trick. Which is the more likely of the two solutions? Of course, the second one, that it is a simple trick.
Why are you so interested in showing that some people might be illusionists?
I saw a spirit church operating, a spiritualist church, I should say, in which they were apparently getting messages from the dead, with holding envelopes with sealed messages inside them to their foreheads. And in watching that, I recognized that I was seeing something that was in the magic books. I mean, something that was legitimately in the magic books and was a regular routine that was performed by magicians on stage for purposes of entertainment. When I saw that, in conjunction with a few of my comrades at the time, we were all really dismayed. We saw little ladies sitting there with tears running down their faces, believing they were getting messages from the beyond. We saw all kinds of flummery being done. From that moment on, I was convinced of one thing, that I had to eventually use my expertise and my authority in this field to convince people that they could easily be fooled. It's time that the scientists spoke up. It's time also the magicians, who know better in this sort of field, that they speak up and say when they see another magician working. And it's time that the newspapers and the media in general stop promoting belief in this paranormal nonsense, because it is claptrap and flummery from end to end. They must take a rational point of view, and they must introduce a skeptical point of view.
On Sydney's outskirts, a team of workmen begin preparing the site for Australia's first definitive test of water divining. The test has been designed with the complete agreement of the water diviners themselves. 10 parallel trenches are dug to take 10 plastic water pipes. The diviners will have to detect in which pipe the water is flowing.
Now what the pipes, 1 metre apart? Where's the tail one going to go?
Probably about 20 feet down.
Right, and that's going to be left open, and can we get little holes in the top of the pipes?
So I can, yeah, I'll put valve box on all of these.
Right,
valves.
but if we just have little holes in the top of the pipe to know that there is water flowing, you know,
just to
so
prove
someone
that,
can see that.
so that anyone who looks at it can tell there is water flowing in that pipe.
Right, now, have you got, what are you going to use, a bin here? Let's have a look here.
There's a valve box.
See, is that okay for you?
Oh, that's... Now, water flowing through a pipe like this.
Oh, and there's a box.
Such a volume.
What a beautiful job you've done. Hold on.
This valve box will go. Each valve will be in the ground.
Yes.
Oh, very good. That's excellent. Excellent.
Perfect.
Oh,
so
very good.
Just hold on. That mounts like there. And that'll just go over the top of it.
Lovely.
Goes over there.
Lovely.
We're not going to bury this until tomorrow, are we? Is that,
No. We want them to see that it is a legitimate setup, that the pipes are in the ground. They must understand every fact about this thing. Up until the last moment, they will not understand in which pipe the water is flowing.
Right.
In fact, I won't know it because someone else is going to turn it on.
And then we'll bury it after they've seen it today.
No, we don't want to bury it until tomorrow.
We bury it moments before.
Oh.
So they're absolutely sure that nothing took place overnight. They're going to suspect, because the powers, I think, will not work, they're going to suspect some chicanery. We've got to show them every detail of it. They must be absolutely assured in their own minds that the test is being done fairly.
And then they each do a divining test over the area beforehand to check that there's no water that's going to worry them.
Well, they've got to say where it is. And if they say that it's near pipe number 6 or something, then we say, okay, we will not use 6. Then their chances are 1 out of 9. We hope we won't have to do that.
You're doing all this work. Do you believe in water divining?
Yeah.
There's 10 pipes there, right?
Yes.
And they'll put water in one of those pipes.
Yes.
And you've got to find out which one it is.
Yes, and then they'll drain that pipe, and then they'll put it in another pipe, and they've got to check the water in whichever other pipe it will be in.
they've gone to quite some deal of effort and work to try and make it fair for all concerned, and I think we'll find that, in fact, I'm sure there'll be a result, and possibly 10 results tomorrow, the way things are looking.
You think the 10 diviners will be able to get it right?
I'll be very surprised if the 10 of them do not.
I was always sceptical, very sceptical. He found it, but I thought, oh, it's coincidence. I don't know, but I didn't believe it.
What's your success rate in water divining?
100%.
But I believe it now.
What sort of divining rod do you use? So you're right every time?
Yes, I haven't failed.
It's just off our mulberry tree at home.
Some people use steel ones.
Yes, Bob doesn't know about that.
Some people use steel like that in their hands, and some use the two, and then they sort of cross.
Yeah.
But if you asked me to depth it with that method, well, I couldn't do it.
You can only depth it with the wood?
Only depth it with the wood.
And you are better with the wood, Farm.
Well, the wood is the way I was taught.
And I think that this test should go beyond any shadow of doubt and prove to the public generally that water divining is possible, does work, and will work.
They're very confident words.
I'm sure, well, if you've had success at this game, you become confident in it.
What do you reckon they'll say, you know, if they fail?
Well, the rationalizations. The rationalizations, Dick, you'll be amazed what they come up with as rationalizations. They'll invoke astrological signs, unfortunate aspects of the moon, all kinds of things. And also they'll say negative vibrations for
but wait a second, how can they do that if they go to sign with us, if they go to sign and say that they're very happy and they've checked a bit of pipe?
Doesn't make much difference. They'll find a rationalization. Now, I've been 35 years in this business, and you'd think that I'd be able to come up with all the rationalization. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
The dowsers particularly are very adept at this. Now, to you and me, to reasonable, rational, logical people, they have failed, and there doesn't seem to be any such power. But to them, they're not acting logically.
So what frustrates me is what's the use of doing this if we're not going to...
It's true. The only thing you can do, and the only person you're going to convince of it is, I think, particularly the younger generation, who are on the verge. They say, I wonder, does such a thing really happen or not? The old-timers who have believed in this all of their life, they're not going to change.
No.
Stuart, are you busy?
The morning of the test arrives, and there are last-minute preparations with meticulous attention to detail. The $30,000 is now $40,000.
Roger there.
Another skeptic has thrown his money into the ring.
Get going now.
I sent those down to you, Dick. I sent a box of pens and a lot of blank paper.
Roger, thank you.
It is obviously essential to avoid any claims of trickery or deception by both sides. The test must be as fair as possible and a valid scientific exercise.
Good morning. We're going to go up there in a few moments, and what you're going to see is the site before it's actually been covered in. Now, I think you're roughly familiar with what's happened. We've laid 10 pipes, parallel, a meter apart, 4 inches in diameter. They're quite sizable pipes up there. You're going to see them laid in the trenches before they're covered over. After you retire back here again, after you've asked questions that you want to ask and have seen the setup there, they're going to come in and they're going to cover it over and trample it down flat, but there will be green boxes sticking out of the earth that mark the beginning and the end of each one of the 10 paths. So you can tell very easily where the pipe is underneath the ground. There's going to be no question of that whatsoever. Later on, we'll go through the procedure of how we randomize and we choose one of the paths at random, and then the valves are turned on. The water will be flowing. The judge who is present will determine, A, that the water is flowing, that it was flowing during the test, and after the test that it is still flowing until it's turned off. So you'll have absolute assurance that there was water flowing and that it was flowing in one of the pipes. You won't be told any of the results. No one will be told any of the results on any individual test or set of tests until everything has been done. Now, there's a good reason for this, of course. If someone is way ahead of the others and whatnot, it's going to discourage everyone else, perhaps. We don't want any kind of negative influence like that. We don't want anyone to feel discouraged.
I've carried experiments like this, and I found out that one does get a residual effect for some time afterwards. I would not be certain in my own mind whether it was moisture within the pipe or a possible magnetic effect caused by the initial flowing of the water.
Okay. Now, we have attempted to get around that. That's always a possibility, of course. The site that you'll see up there is built on a slope. There are a couple of feet from one end to the other. The water is being gravity-fed. It's being brought in from a hydrant. It goes into a drum, and from the drum, it flows into the pipe. So it's not being directly pumped through. It's not being forced through in gushes like that. Not only that, when the valves are opened up, all of the pipes drain out because they are running downhill.
Step by step, James Randi takes the diviners through the testing procedure. All have agreed in writing to the conditions. All claim to have successfully divined water running through plastic pipes. Throughout Australia, water diviners are earning good money by telling farmers where to sink their bores. And now the cream of them are about to put their claims to the test.
Are you satisfied with the conditions?
They appear to be quite okay, Bob, yes. Everything that we have asked for so far has been met with, and I think this is fair enough. This is as much as can be expected.
The pipes are covered over. $40,000 are there for the taking.
Ted, well, we're going to have Ted as sort of a master judge or something? Or
all right. Maybe Ted would be the good man to stay with Scott and with Kent.
Right.
You think so? And to make the decisions, and his word will be accepted, I'm sure, by everybody.
Right, we'll have to check that out. I'm sure they will.
We'll have to check you out with every one of them.
First, before any water is turned on, each diviner checks the area to make sure it's clear of interference.
It seems clear. Clear.
You find it's clear. Okay, just right in the square, Ted. Clear. Okay? Put it back in the bag, replace it now. Now we're going to turn on number 9 right in front of you to see what happens. I want you to go back to that position as soon as we've turned it on. And then you will come down here and ascertain that you get the dowsing reaction here. As soon as it's open, let me know.
And now, with the diviner's knowledge, water is sent flowing through pipe number 9.
Okay, gentlemen, we will turn off this first, please, and then turn off number 9.
What's the test like?
It seems pretty fair to me.
So you walked across the number 9 with the water flowing through it and you got a dowsing reaction.
Definitely.
So theoretically, next time you do it, you won't know which pipe has got the water in it, and you should get a dowsing reaction over one of them.
I certainly should.
For candidate number 1, the test proper begins. The diviner is not told the correct result, which is scrutinised by the Reverend Ted Knopfs. After each run, a different pipe is chosen at random. The diviner is not allowed to watch.
That's number 6 in the back.
Was the sensation that you got walking over pipe 4 the same as it was when you walked over pipe 9 when you knew that the water was in pipe 9?
Yes.
Exactly the same?
Just the same.
He divined number 4.
Yes.
Which pipe was the water running through?
Well, I'm not supposed to know that, because I'm supposed to be doing this in a double-blind fashion.
Yeah, but I mean...
And if I knew even, I wouldn't reveal it to you now, because people are standing here watching. You have a reporter less than a foot behind your shoulder, and he would know it too.
Did he get the right one?
I can't tell you that.
Most of the diviners claim 100% accuracy. But what if divining does not work? What if it's pure fiction? If they walk over the pipes and try to guess the right one, then their chances of accidental success are 1 in 10. 10%. That's the figure to remember. 10%.
The value is roughly $14,000.
$14,000.
Approximately.
Right, so if they win...
It's the purest gold in Australia.
Right. Now, what's
Australian
Phillips there?
It's Australian Bullion Company gold in the purest gold in
What's his
Australia.
first name?
Mike.
Mike, can you come here? Is that... do you want to just check a divining thing on that?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Gold. Look at that.
So now, I approach this fellow here with the gold.
Yep. So that's the gold. What's it, the actual gold pulling those rods around, or is it just your hand?
It's a mental attitude to the whole show.
But if you don't know where the gold is, if it's in a cardboard box, how can your mental attitude work?
Well, you know, first of all, what you're looking for, whether it's metal or gold.
Right.
But you tune yourself in to whatever you're searching for.
Right. Oh, what, you can just tune your mind into gold, copper, brass, and that's it?
Yes, yes.
The box doesn't worry. He said he's not worried about the box.
Well, I'd say they're going to take the money.
No,
Rightio, can we put it in? No. Oh, no, you'll be doing the gold one. Oh, no, you wanted water.
Yeah, I did.
No,
So
you'll
I
be the
shouldn't-
next water one.
No, so I shouldn't try.
No.
Right.
Well, you can try it now if you want to.
All the diviners claim the ability to detect metal. The testing procedure is simple. First, each diviner satisfies himself that he can detect the gold inside the cardboard box. And then the gold is hidden inside one of 10 boxes.
It feels like somebody's got a little bit of cotton tied around the end and pulls the wire around. There's no question about it.
How did the gentleman with the hat go?
Not very well, Bob. In test 1, the gold was in box 6, he picked number 4. Test 2 was in number 7, he picked number 2. Test 3 was in number 7, he picked number 2. In test 4, in box 9, he picked number 1. In test 5 was in box 9, he picked number 6. So he didn't get any right at all.
10 out of 10? Well, we hope that's, what happens.
But you were dead certain, obviously.
Oh, of course I'm dead certain, yes.
Did you have a go at the gold nugget?
Yep.
How'd you go?
5 good quick runs. Just as quick as this, look. Went as quick as this. Straight over it. Next one. As soon as I found it, 1. Picked it.
No trouble at all?
No trouble at all. Just like playground. Play to me. Just like taking a lolly out of a baby's mouth.
What was it like?
Just like taking a lolly out of a baby's mouth. Not fair.
What else can you divine apart from metals? Can you divine water?
Yes, I can divine water.
What else?
Yeah. Oh, just you name it. You can divine anything you want to.
Gunpowder?
You can divine gunpowder?
Gunpowder, diamonds.
Just over that object there, that's emitting a form of a beam or ray or whatever you want to call it, and you're just picking up the signal from it.
That's for bones.
Bones?
Yes, I've tried that in the Inglewood Cemetery. It's an old cemetery, and I can tell the length of the body, the width, and the depth. And if I can get somebody to give me a quarter teaspoonful of marijuana, I'd like to. I'm sure I can find something to divine that.
Divine marijuana?
Yeah.
What for?
Well, then I'd go down and train somebody at every port.
Oh, yeah.
See, and then all they got to do is go around the top of the ship. It's welded in the ships. Go around the top of the ship and catch these blokes. I'm really going to sweat. Catch these blokes to bring it out.
During the day, more than 100 test runs over both water and metal are made by the diviners. And under the watchful gaze of the Reverend Ted Noffs and Father Laurie Drake, who buried their ecumenical differences in the name of scientific inquiry, no skullduggery was observed.
Number 6.
6. Head 6.
6?
Yeah.
Here's the
counter? Okay.
yeah, is that the little sock?
Yes, the one he was...
Okay.
The one he was...
Water. Opal? Opal? Yeah, I've been buying opals. I've got that first guess at Shepton Murphy told me to try that.
No, I don't get it at all.
I'm finding water right here.
Yes, lead? Find lead anywhere.
This is a bit sensitive.
Yeah, but you just tilted your hand, John.
No, I didn't. Dick, you don't have to.
Would you like me to?
Just walk across at right angles. You don't tilt your hand.
Right, I just don't.
Just sensitive, just lightly, and that rules your hand out all...
Look!
Damn well works.
Coal? I found 5 seams of coal in a failure distance.
Slowly. We'd better come back the other way.
Why is it working with me and it works with you guys all the time?
Well, we're tuned in, see? Slowly.
But you're tuned in, I can't see why. I'm thinking of water.
Okay, I think you passed the stream.
There you are, no.
Just keep on thinking.
Yeah, but I just tilted it, I'm sure, when I thought I was there.
Well, let's check. We've been working on this one for a while.
Yeah, but...
I'm not cheating, I'm not...
They done today? The tests that were done, were they adequate to the purpose?
The testing, as far as I was concerned, and I think as far as the rest of the diviners were concerned, was done as fair and as square as could be.
I'm convinced it's scientific, and there will be a scientific explanation. And if my own tests fell down a low percentage, my theories are shot down in flames, and I'll shut up.
Now, I remind you, the estimation that was made in some cases was as high as 100% on success on these things. The lowest estimate was 80%.
Most of you estimated that you would be 100% successful.
When the number of trials is added together, and the chances were 1 in 10, that is 10%. 10% was the chance by purely mathematical chance, not with any ability being exhibited. Just the fact that it would be done by throwing a coin or throwing a dart into a board would be 1 in 10 or 10%. And the total results were?
Well, I'm going to read out the metal results and Ted the other one. The metal results with the brass, we had no one chose the brass out of 26 tries, so that's 0%. And with the gold, there were 4 correct decisions out of 35 attempts, and that's about 12%. So the average for the complete metal, gold and brass, today was 6.6%, which is probably a little bit less than what you get by chance.
And then in the water dowsing, 10 out of a total of 50 tries, there were only 11 successful attempts, which was 22%. The total of everything, that is to say the brass, the gold, and the water, meant 111 tries were undertaken. There were a total of 15 successful, and that makes approximately a percentage of 12%. So the result was just a little over the 10%.
Well, it's equivalent to throwing a dart at random into a dartboard, or flipping coins, or choosing cards at random. It would seem from this evidence that all of what we have done today, and this is an agreement with other tests that I have conducted in other parts of the world, as I've said, it would seem to indicate that dowsing as a force simply does not exist except in the imagination and in wishful thinking of the people who try it.
I've been able to locate water for neighbours and so forth, but I would have thought the scores would be much better. Talking to some of these learned, I've learned a lot here, personally, in talking to them. I would have thought the score would be higher. I can only speak for water. I have no experience at all in mineral.
Psychologists will tell you there's such a thing as an ideomotor reaction. Ideomotor reaction is an unconscious reaction in which the person who's operating the machinery or whatever unconsciously tilts or very, very slightly changes the position of the hand or however the thing is held. Now, by this I mean with a dowsing rod, when you hold a dowsing rod like this, the dowsing rod is tensed. It's enormously tense. There's a lot of energy put in the thing. It's hard to keep it level. If you're using the rods and they're sticking out like this, it's hard to keep them level and straight as well. In order to make them move back and forth, the tiniest movement of the hand or the tiniest flexing of the wrist is the only thing that's necessary for them to move, and move a great deal, either whip up or down or diverge or cross in a great big motion. Because of that, ideomotor reaction comes in. If you believe, and remember as Dick said, when you fellas knew the water was flowing in the pipe and you were told the number at the beginning, it was flowing in pipe number 2, for example, it was there, you were assured that it was there, your reactions were very positive. And you were right, of course. The rods moved. From then on, it got very difficult, and then the decisions were wrong from then on. Not always wrong, but certainly well within chance.
An awful lot of people seem to believe in water divining. The cameraman who's filming this, the sound recordist believed in it. A lot of the judges believed in it. Ted Knopf's believed in it. The priest believes in it. How is it so widespread when it's proving to be nonsense?
Well, I think the reason water divining has carried on for so long is because water itself is so widespread. Most of these diviners gain success because they work in areas where the groundwater conditions are extremely favourable. So, in fact, they can't miss.
The green shaded areas show the extent of Australia's underground water. As the man said, it's hard to miss. Ideomotor reaction, extensive groundwater, and its total failure under test conditions. This should lay to rest the phenomenon of water divining.
Of the dowsers who are here today, I'd like to see a show of hands. How many still believe in dowsing? Let's have a show of hands. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
What newspaper are you from? The Telegraph, sorry, yes. Now, we did over 100 tests, and the diviners thought that they would be 80 to 100% accurate, and in fact, the accuracy that was worked out by the independent judges, Ted Knopf's and the other judges, was 11%, which is virtually the random way that it would go.
I've noticed over the years that if the sunspots interfere with divining.
Take the gold. Once it had been in a box for a short period, then that puts in what some people call a remnants.
Even though all the tests have failed and they said they were very confident and happy, they said that they would be quite, they're still quite convinced that dowsing works.
Any volume, any amount,
Yeah.
any duration, any...
Even though, unfortunately, this time they're all proved that it doesn't work.
In a way, you're a little bit amused. In other ways, you're very disappointed in human nature when you realize that people simply will not learn a lesson, and no matter how much evidence you give.
Right.
You know, it just... oh, do I get my check back?
I was going to say, there's the cheque, and the Richard Carlton cheque has to be given back to him, Philip Adams, and my cheque. So next time, is it still open? I think we keep the offer open.
Oh, indeed, any time at all. I'm game as long as you are.
By the way, you guys, the offer is still open. I've just checked, $40,000. If you can get together in a group and come up with something that we can test, any paranormal activity or water dividing or something,
Anytime.
It's open. We're genuinely interested in trying to at least get the minutest skerrick of evidence. I'd love to have something.
It's the Skeptics with yet another paranormal specialty. A variation of this one fooled investigators in Russia for months.
Woo-woo.
Okay, now don't bring your finger in.
Blowing it.
Are you? Are you blowing it? Oh.
You pay too much attention to this.
Did you notice that?
You pay too much attention to this business. Watch now as the hand moves it. Watch my mouth.
Look. Yes.
And then when you want to go the opposite way.
Yeah. Oh.
I knew he had lips up his whiskers.
Yes.
Well, watch this. Watch this now. Here's a better one. See? It's astonishing. Try it yourself. Oh, you lose it.
Tell me, do you think, you know, if people believe in these things, is there any harm even if they are deluding themselves?
Of course there is. There's an enormous amount of harm in any kind of lie or deception. Whether it's political, whether it's scientific, it makes no difference. I think I've got a general principle in life that deception is a harmful element in life. And if a younger generation is raised to believe that there are things that go bump in the night, that there are marvelous things that can happen to them if only they'll subscribe to the Maharishi or whatever, then I think we've got a very big problem. We have to reach in. You have a serious problem here. I have to reach in a little further. And I hope that I can. things. Now, ladies and gentlemen, put that mess in the bag, would you, young man? Sorry about that. There's a little more of it. Well, we better show the patient what came out of him here. Would you believe that you had this kind of thing in here, isn't it? We're all right. Now let me just, I've got to heal the whole thing now, after I've made such a terrible mess. I would suggest that you take a good long bath tonight. Yes. There, we seem to have... There we go. Now a little bit of vinegar and tomato sauce. Okay. Sir, I want to thank you very much for coming up on stage. If you'll get dressed now, you look very disrespectful.
For 35 years, James Randi has used humour and trickery to try to convince people that unquestioning belief in the paranormal can be a dangerous thing.
I hate to wash up in front of the audience like this, but we surgeons have to do things when we can. Okay, folks, it looks amusing. Psychic surgery works all right. It makes the psychic surgeons very wealthy. But it doesn't work for anybody else, because people return to their homes and they die. There seems to be this kind of abnormal science which says that the ordinary rules of logic do not apply to it, that repeatable experiments are not required of it, that the rules can change constantly let's say, in tune with the times, or what has been written in the sensationalist press, and various other anomalies belong to this science, which stamps it to me as a pseudoscience. Pseudoscience can be a very dangerous thing. Many people think that I oversell my case. There was a gentleman in California who started up a church, a rather shaky foundation for a church, but part of the foundation was the fact that he thought that he could impress people, and indeed he found he could, by saying that he could resurrect the dead. And in his church regularly, he would bring in dead people and resurrect them, apparently. He would reach into the bodies of parishioners and take from them various substances which he said were deadly tumors that otherwise would have killed them. They believed. They believed that because he had these supernormal powers, that he had direct contact with some god or other. His name was Jim Jones. I think we have probably not yet forgotten, though the memory may be somewhat dimming, that colossal tragedy known as Jonestown. 1,000 people, slightly less, poisoned their own children and themselves because they believed that Jim Jones had the way to salvation. And why did they believe? Partly because of what he said and because he had great charisma, but very, very much because he did miracles. Astonishing, and certainly not for those who have investigated these matters in the past.